he's going to do a talk about Visual Studio 6. So it's going to be a trip back in time. So if anybody has never seen Visual Studio 6, Visual Basic 6, strap in, because you'll be wondering how we developed it in the days. But Norbert is a professor at Conestoga College. Maybe many of you or some of you have actually had him as a professor over the years. And he used to work for Microsoft. And did you help roll out this product as well?
I was the marketing manager at the time that this was rolled out. So
nice.
I rolled out Visual Studio 6 in Canada.
Nice.
So it was actually kind of fun.
Yeah. So 20 years ago, this came out, and yeah, he's going to take it down memory lane here. So I'll pass it over to Norbert. Please welcome Norbert.
So a few little preambles here. As was mentioned, I did work at Microsoft. It was from 1991 to the year 2000. So it was about a 9-year time frame over at Microsoft Canada. And around 97 to 99, I was the marketing manager for development tools in Canada. So that's how the whole Visual Studio thing came. The presentation is going to be short and sweet. The kinds of presentations we used to do in those days lasted for Visual Studio 2 to 6 hours. Right? It was either a full day thing or more. It really was kind of interesting. Some of you may remember it. In fact, some of you might even remember seeing some of the stuff. So I came across Canada quite a bit. Anyhow, one of the events that was held in Canada is something called Dev Days. So I kind of stole some slides that I found lying around and started building up on them. I thought I may have had some old presentations, but those were all gone. I don't know how they disappeared. And one of the challenges, by the way, is to go back to something that is 20 years old and find how to install something 20 years old. When I used to work at Microsoft, there was always stuff that was 2 years in advance that we had to install. But stuff that is 20 years old is not easy. It took me longer to install this than it ever, right? But we'll get through that. So this is kind of like a trip down memory lane. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Visual Studio 6. Again, I can't do it justice, but I'll kind of give you some highlights in terms of some of the things that we did. Oh, by the way, just got this little page. I carry one of these around. These were from a company called RIM. And it was rather interesting because as we carried these around at that time, people were saying, what is this? You know, some sort of a pager. We were one of the data sets. So we wound up having these things for a couple of years before they were produced in 2000. So around this time frame is actually when we started playing around with it. So if you're looking for a tip in terms of some stock you might be able to buy, and sell it at the right time. RIM's a good thing. Okay, so a few little things. Visual Studio 6 overview, a little demonstration just so you can see what it looks like, and if there's time, some Q&A. This was something that we talked a lot about, and something that maybe many of you don't remember or haven't even seen, and it's something called WinDNA. Okay? WinDNA was kind of the basis of what we were trying to do. So let's go ahead and do maybe what we call today universal programs. Right? So we wrote things that were component-based. And those things that were component-based could exist on the web, they could exist simply on applications that are on a desktop, they could exist in networks. Well, it's rather interesting because these pieces that were the business processes were, as you probably know by now, COM components that could go anywhere on the network. And this is kind of how we went ahead and told people that you have to develop your applications. The integrated storage piece at this time was introduced as OLADB, okay? Which in those days was the first technology that was really data store based and not a data storage based thing like a database system. So DAO was database based. ADO was the abstraction layer that was storage based, and this could be a storage for anything. It could be a file system, it could be a database system, whatever the case would be. And of course there were different user interfaces, different tools that we had to go ahead and use to develop all this stuff. So you had this product called Visual Studio, and it came in 3 flavors. There was Enterprise, there was something called Professional, and then there was something that was a fairly basic system. I think it was Education or something like that. And as was the case at Microsoft all the time, and it probably still is the case, there were always these one-liners or these elevated kind of pitches that you made to go ahead and explain what the product was all about. So Visual Studio Enterprise Edition is the complete suite for rapidly building data-centric enterprise solutions. This particular edition, anyway. There were some application design analysis tools, advanced database features, team development features, back office development edition was a part of this whole thing. So we had SQL Server and a few other tools in there, and comprehensive development tools throughout. And it was around $2,000 to $3,000. It was not a cheap product. The requirements were really quite cool. You only needed Windows 95 to run this. Okay? This is all you really required to go ahead and do some work. As an aside, what did you use for something like a web server? There's something called PWS, Personal Web Services, which was the precursor to IIS and the IIS stuff that was local. It's really kind of interesting. Windows NT Workstation or Server was preferred because you had more security, more power. That's kind of what I'm going to be in here in a moment. 24 megabytes of RAM. 24 megabytes of RAM. Okay, is all that you really needed in terms of disk space, in terms of RAM space, and only 2 gigabytes of disk space you require. Okay. Now these days you need 2 gigabytes. That goes ahead and gives you whatever time. What time? 2 gigabytes in terms of the RAM. Back then it was the disk space you needed. And you needed a really fast processor. You needed a 90 megahertz processor. What came in the box? VB6, Visual C++ 6, something called Visual InterDev, which is the web-based tool, or the web tool itself. FoxPro, SourceSafe, and some tools that were included in that as well. The question then becomes, whatever happened to J++? And that was a question I got every single time I did a presentation. So some of you might know or might remember that J++ was Microsoft's version of Java, but Microsoft extended it and didn't include some of the things that Sun wanted. So Sun decided to go ahead and try to sue Microsoft, which they almost succeeded in, except we pulled this product out around this time frame. They had to get separated out. It was a part of Visual Studio. And by 2004, it was a completed product entirely. So there was no support for it whatsoever. What supplanted it was C#. Okay? That was the product that actually replaced it. So most of you know that C# is more Java-like than it is C++ like. So Java, the J++ version, became extinct. What's new in this particular edition, there was something called APE, the Application Performance Explorer. It dealt with looking at the components and performance of different components. The Visual Modeler, there was something dealing with integration with Visual SourceSafe and the IDE. So you could actually go ahead and check things in and out of Visual SourceSafe. At that particular point, that was a novel idea. ADO 2.0 came out, SNA Server came out, we had SQL Server, OLADB, all these different technologies that were a part of what was new in that whole suite. VB6 continued to be arguably the most popular language in the world. It was easy to justify, especially if you added VB8 to it entirely. Right? There were some other components to it that were part of it. C++ was still very, very prevalent. That was the preferred way to do all the performance-oriented pieces, and InterDev was the part that actually did all the web applications. So FoxPro, okay, just a word about FoxPro. As much as we tried to kill it, it would not die. Okay? There were 500,000 people in the world that used FoxPro and developed some awesome applications. We could not kill it. Okay? We took some technologies out of it, like Rushmore and stuff. But from that standpoint, yeah, we got everything we could put into Access, and FoxPro still lived on. There are still FoxPro developers today that are very happy with what they do. So if you need anything more, go to the MSDN site. So, remember that tagline? Where do you want to go today? Okay, let's just try this out. If I can only get the cursor to work here. My mouse is gone. Where'd it go?
It's there,
It's on the projector.
above
Oh, I see
IE.
what happened here. Somebody should have just mentioned that to me. I could have gone ahead and done this. It's a little bit easier. It's PowerPoint that does this to me, right? That's better. Thank you. Okay. So I will start VMware Workstation. Hyper-V will not support anything this old. Okay. So I had to go to Workstation. And then the hard part about this was that you had to go to NT Service Pack 6 in order for you to use the tools for VMware Workstation. So if you ever want to try this out, it takes a while to get it all set up properly. Okay. So we have Windows NT that I want to start up here. So I'm cheating a little bit. This is Service Pack 6 instead of the original one. Go ahead and go full screen here for us. And the magic of virtual machines make this all work a little bit faster.
What media do that should want to raise?
I'm sorry?
What media do they come on raise? Your CD?
Yeah, it came on CDs. Yeah. So I happen to have been a big MSDN user, being a part of the team, and I still had subscriptions afterwards. So I have 6 huge binders of discs. I had all the discs, but I lost the keys. That was another challenge. Just they required the keys. But it came on CDs. I played with this a little bit and I thought, man, this is still really impressive in terms of what this is. I thought I'd leave this up, Internet Explorer 4. Did you know it was that old? Anyway, it is, yeah, 12 years ago. So if I go to Programs, I go to Visual Studio 6, let me go into Visual Basic. And it takes a long time to start up. There's a lot of stuff that had to be installed. And of course, there's a whole pile of really cool stuff over here. So one of the things that I might show you is ActiveX Control. And this ActiveX Control is just do a very simple one by putting in a little box, putting in a little button, and double click on this thing and just say text box 1 dot, whoops, text box 1, what is it called? You know what? You gotta do this crazy thing here called option explicit to make sure you don't make any errors. Remember that? It's not automatic, you still have to do that. And let's see, what's this thing called here? It's called text 1. So text1 dot, and I think this one is text. So this is still the same, is equal to hello. Okay, something simple like this. And this is a component, this is an ActiveX component. And if I were to test this ActiveX component, it asks me what the harness should be. And the harness, because in those days everything was supposed to be transferable everywhere, happens to be Internet Explorer. So this actually works in IE. And the clever thing here is if you take a look at what actually is in the source code, the source code is a class ID. It's actually a class that was created with a class ID reference to it. These are the olden days when we did this kind of stuff. But just to kind of show that this did work right across the board, I have to close that browser piece. I'm going to close this guy and go ahead and add another project, a standard one. It's a little bit bigger, so I put that component in here. Notice the component does appear on here. I can draw the component on here. I'll go ahead and switch. Startup. Start up here. And now I've got this thing working as a component in the desktop app. This was revolutionary in those days. This was very cool. Anyway, that gives you a little bit of an idea in terms of what's going on here. Now, one last comment. People are sort of saying, in the audience, is the internet for real? We haven't, as a group, as an industry, figured out if you can ever make money on the internet. Okay? Google, by the way, never existed yet. Right? It was just kind of in the infrastructure building stages. Amazon does exist. It sells books. But they're not going to make money for 10, 20 years, we figured. Right? That was probably true. And aside from that, we don't know where we're going with this. We just had to do this because everybody else was doing it. So we've got some sort of a reasonable answer to things. Anyway, time is up.
Perfect. Love it. Brought back a lot of memories and nightmares.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Norbert? Would anybody like to try out Visual Studios?
Is that BlackBerry pager still booting up?
I actually do have, I have 2. This is the only one that I had in the office, but I have another one that's fully functional. Okay? This is one that actually does not boot up.
That was Mike and Jim's, the gift to him.
It goes on the network right now?
It still works, yeah. They still have that whole network set up, which is very odd. I was really surprised. So it did boot up, it initialized and everything, but I don't have an account anymore. So it basically gave me errors when I wanted to log in, so I assumed it was a server. And today is the best server that we connect to. Right? Back then, they actually had a desktop server as well. So what you could do is you could run the application on your desktop, and as long as you were continually on, as long as you were powered up, then you could go ahead and run that service, and you can connect to that instead of an Exchange server. So that made the whole experience that much more fun. could actually do a lot more control than we can tonight. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Norbert. We are smoking right along, so we're actually going to take a 10-minute break, grab some food, grab some pens, talk to the speakers if you have questions, and then we'll reconvene at 7:10, and we'll do the final 3 speakers then.
It was a neat environment because it created
Yeah.